Welcome to SPC Demo Fair, everyone. I'm really excited for this event. Like I was telling the audience IRL, I haven't had the podium or the mic for over 3.5 years. So this is a very dangerous proposition here. But before we get started, because we have a lot of external people attending the demo fair, I wanted to give a brief introduction to SPC and what SPC is. Let's see if I can go on to the next slide. Not really. Jonathan? Okay, well, we don't need them. Let's just keep going. So SPC. SPC is a place and a community where you come when you have, like, finished your job, finished working on whatever projects you're working on, and are truly trying to identify what you want to work on next. It is what we call the -1 to 0 phase. It is where you can turn the chaos of possibility, all positive connotations, into the clarity of conviction, but not do it alone. Because I've tried to start companies twice in my past, and every time I was doing it, I was sitting on my couch. Everyone around me was solving the world's most important problems, and I was feeling this sense of deep loss of an opportunity cost, or loss of opportunities. And in my head, I was like, oh, I could be working at the next startup that could become the next billion-dollar company or the next unicorn, but here I am sitting on my couch. And the reality is that SPC actually creates this safe environment where you can be vulnerable, where you can navigate that idea maze, where you can build conviction, and where you can validate both your ideas before you start a company. And do that with smart people around you, so you're not sitting alone on your couch. So that's what SPC is. If anyone is interested in joining us, we welcome you. You can go to southparkcommons.com, check out our application process, or just sign up for a newsletter to get more information. So with that, I'm going to kick off the demo fair. The other thing that SPC is really unique and well known for is that about 90% of our community can actually write code. So not someone who studied CS maybe 10 years ago, not someone who like me ended up being a product manager all their life and can't set up their environment now, but people who can actually write code. So when we do a demo fair, it's not a presentation with 4 slides with graphs that go up and to the right. It's an actual demo of things that people have built. So these are going to be 8-minute live demos. Demos are particularly difficult, and they break even more on Zoom. So please be patient with our presenters, and as audience members, just appreciate the fact that it's a demo and not a presentation. So with that, I want to introduce our first presenter. His name is Faire. He started a company called Socket. Security teams depend on Socket to prevent malicious open source dependencies from infiltrating the app. Because I know all of these people and they come from SPC, Faire is a prolific builder and open source contributor. I think he might have at one point built over 100 different applications or websites. And then with that, I'm going to hand it off to Faire, who's actually remote.
All right. So it's awesome to be here presenting. Thank you for having me. I just want to say before I start, I really enjoyed my time at SPC. It was amazing. And it's awesome. It's an awesome thing. If you guys are thinking about applying, definitely encourage you to do it. It was an awesome experience. And now I want to jump into my demo. So I'm just going to start with a quick problem statement, and then I'll show you actually 3 demos. I'm going to try and fit 3 demos in here. So we'll see if we can do it. So let's start with kind of the problem. So open source dependencies have become super complex, right? So when you go to install packages, you end up with thousands of dependencies in your project. Just as one example, Discord actually has almost 20,000 dependencies that make up the Discord desktop app. And if you look into those dependencies, they're actually built by almost 400,000 contributors from from over 200 countries. Yeah. So anyway, there's a ton of dependencies flying around. I didn't even know there were 206 countries in the world, to be quite honest with you. So there's a lot of folks contributing to open source. And with this, it's awesome in a lot of ways, but with this comes a lot of risk. So one of those risks is that the average dependency brings in 79 other dependencies, and we've seen like a massive rise in the number of attacks because of all these different people we're depending on. If you have even one bad apple, it can go really, really poorly. So there's been a whole bunch of news stories around this, projects getting affected by malware in open source code. So with that, I'll just jump straight into the demo here. So let's say I'm a developer and I'm trying to implement a feature, and so I'm going to go ahead and install that because I read about it on Stack Overflow and it seems like a cool package. It's going to help me implement this calendar feature that I need on my website. So I go ahead and install it, and now I'm going to go ahead and send a pull request. So I'm going to make a commit, and then I'm going to go ahead and push that up to GitHub. And so I go over here to GitHub, and you can see here we have this is the pull request. And what you see is that if you go into the this diff section here, you'll see that there's the package that was just added that I installed, but there's really no indication of the risk that I'm bringing into my project by installing this package. It looks like it's a simple one-line change, but in fact, there may be hundreds of dependencies being brought in by this single change. And you can see it's really hard for your teammates or people reviewing the code to really get a sense of like what exactly is the risk of this, like what is this going to do when we run it. And so that's where Socket comes in. So you can see Socket came in here and left a comment, providing me a ton of context about the risk being brought in by these new dependencies. So the two main risks it's highlighting are the presence of what are called install scripts, and then the other risk is telemetry. So these are both really important to know about. So I'll just go through them really quickly. So install scripts are basically just shell code, like terminal commands that this package is actually going to execute on the developer machine, as well as on your build server and maybe even in production. So we detect that and we give you a link directly to the script, and you can take a look and see if this is something that really makes sense for this project. And does it really make sense for a calendar widget to be running shell commands? And probably the answer is no, because calendar shouldn't really need to run terminal commands. So this is something to really look into here. Second issue it found is the presence of telemetry. So this is when a package, or when really anything, a website or an app, tracks you and gathers information about your behavior. And so this is, again, something we probably didn't expect to be inside of our little calendar component here. We don't want to be tracking our developers or our website visitors. So this is something to investigate. But you can see the context that Socket provides right there in the GitHub pull request. If I've gone ahead and evaluated this and determined that it's safe, I can actually leave a comment to tell the bot, hey, I've actually looked into this. It's actually fine. I'd like to ignore this and proceed, at which point it will actually rerun the GitHub check and let me proceed. So that's the main workflow. But what I'm really excited to demo, and so this is my second demo, is a new feature that we actually haven't even released yet, and it's probably going to come out tomorrow. So I'm giving all of you a sneak preview of this unannounced product feature coming out tomorrow. So one of the things you might have realized is, in the demo I showed you, I actually ran this install command on my machine, and I didn't really get feedback until I sent the pull request up to GitHub. And so, this actually might be too late. It might be too late to learn about it at the time of pull request, because I've already maybe compromised my local machine here by running this package. And so what I'm excited to show you now is a feature that we are introducing that allows you to basically alias your npm command, so that instead of running npm, you actually run our own Socket CLI, and look at the new experience you get. So when you go to install a package like Angular Calendar, you'll actually get told before the installation proceeds that there are risks present in this package. And so you can see here that we're being told that there are install scripts and that this package contains telemetry, which might track us. And then I'm given the option to accept these risks and proceed, or I can say no and safely exit before I've compromised myself here. So that is something that is pretty exciting to us, because it means we can actually shift this security earlier and earlier into the process. And so with that, you can really get notified of these issues before they affect you. And I'll give one other example here. So the other big one that comes up quite a lot is an issue called typo squatting, where if you're in a rush and you're trying to find, you're trying to install something really quickly and you make a typo. So I'll give you an example here. There's a very popular package called Browserify, and I'm going to go ahead and typo it here and type Browserify, which is not the correct package. And I go ahead and install that. You'll see that Socket is going to step in here and let us know that, hey, this package that I'm trying to install here is kind of similar to another popular package, that has many, many more millions of downloads. And so this might not be the package that I want. And so you can see there that security kind of stepping in there and protecting me. And so with that, I think I'm probably close to running out of time. So I will leave it there. But that is Socket and our new what we call the safe NPM feature that's going to be coming out tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Firas. Anyone here, IRL, have a question before I go to the Zoom chat? Firas, here's the question. For the NPM on the terminal and the error message that it was showing, was it a wraparound or were you redirecting it to another binary?
So the way that it works is we have a CLI called Socket, and you can run Socket npm install, and that will basically run Socket first, and we take a look at what packages would have been installed, and then we go and do a security check on all of them, and then give you the option to proceed. And because we know that most people aren't going to remember to change their workflow and type Socket npm, what we did for the demo is we aliased it. So in our terminal, anytime we type npm, it's automatically aliasing it to Socket npm. And so if you remember to do that when you set it up, then you basically will just automatically get this security on all of your installs without having to remember to type that command in. So it's something that you could actually just recommend your entire developer team do, and then they'll all get protected. But yeah, to answer your question, if we do proceed with the installation, it does just call out to the normal NPM process.
Okay, thank you for that. And then last question from the chat regarding your first demo. Doesn't Dependabot do something similar for malicious dependencies?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Dependabot is a good baseline to have. It checks for this thing called known vulnerabilities. So known vulnerabilities, or CVEs, are basically like when there's a security problem that a researcher has discovered in a project. They're usually caused by accidents, so they're not intentional. They're like these kind of bugs that end up in open source projects. So that's what Dependabot focuses on. We do that too, but we go way beyond that and actually analyze the code in the dependencies and look for these behavioral things. So we can find is this package going to send your data to a random website? Does it have obfuscated code? Does it have hidden behavior? That type of thing. And that's all stuff that we do with our own analysis. And all the old tools out there today, they just focus on this kind of database of known problems that is kind of stale and kind of takes a while to update and is all based on what researchers find. So it's not very proactive.
And I believe you offer Python support, right?
Yeah, we just rolled that out on March 1st, so just 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we're on a roll here. We rolled out Python on March 1st. We rolled out PNPM support, and we're going to roll this safe NPM out tomorrow. So we're definitely on a roll here with releases.
All right, thanks for that. Appreciate the demo. Okay, hi everyone on Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our second team. They are from Eureka Health, Zain and Noah, who actually met here at SPC. They are building the first community dedicated to finding, validating, and sharing new science backend treatments. So with that, they are also remote and on Zoom. Zain and Noah, can you take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello. Good to see all your faces again. It's been a little while. My name is Zain. I'm with Eureka Health. And as Richie said, we're helping people with chronic diseases both figure out what helps their symptoms, as well as hopefully discover new treatments that we're seeing in the community. So what I'm going to show off today is kind of this Yelp for treatments for chronic diseases that we're in the process of building. But as context, our patients tell us that their number one problem that they deal with their chronic disease is really discovering new treatments to try, and then figuring out whether those treatments are going to work on them. A lot of people will try a bunch of stuff and it just won't work, and it's very specific. So Yeah, imagine you're a patient with a chronic disease like long COVID. That's the first one that we're dealing with right now. You'll often reach the end of what your doctor can help you with pretty quickly. And then you're going to turn to patient communities on Reddit, on Twitter, and Facebook health groups to get advice on what works and doesn't work. You'll share your symptoms, people will respond, they'll give reviews on their own experience with the drugs that you're trying. And those posts are really, really golden. So let me show you one of those. Let me share my screen. So this is on Reddit. This is the COVID long haulers subreddit. You don't need to read this whole thing. I'll point out a couple of cool things about this post. It talks about taking this treatment called low dose naltrexone, some dosages tapered up to 1 milligram and then 1.5 milligrams. Talks about what it helped with: brain fog, helped mentally, focus, lower energy before this. This is golden. This is a really, really useful review on low dose naltrexone. So we went ahead and we scraped this. We scraped this in tens of thousands of other posts and brought it in. So here's that same post in our treatment database. We passed this through an LLM, which is the popular thing to do these days. But this is kind of a unique use of an LLM. We're not actually using this to train an LLM. That has all sorts of problems, right? There'll be hallucination. There's the sourcing problem of figuring out where it understands things. All we're doing is we're passing this comment to an LLM and asking it, does this mention any treatments? So yes, it mentions low dose naltrexone. And then we ask it, what symptoms seem to be improved by this treatment in this post? And, as we mentioned, brain fog, fatigue, focus, energy, etc. So pretty cool for this one post. But we did this for a bunch of posts across a bunch of different subreddits and all over Twitter to get reports on this low dose naltrexone treatment, and then aggregated the results. So we can say, like, this seems to have helped 20% of people significantly, people with long COVID. And it seems to help more than half of people at least a little bit. Not a lot of people got worse. These were the top symptoms that were improved by low dose naltrexone. And here are the most common dosages that people are trying. So people seem to be working their way up to 4.5 milligrams, which matches up with, as we talk to patients, what they've reported. So this is just low dose naltrexone. We did that across a bunch of different treatments. As you can see, we did almost 5,000 treatments just for long COVID here, and we aggregated the results. So you can see the ones that are most popular to try are right here. A lot of them didn't seem to help as much, but LDN, as mentioned before, does seem to help. Fasting seems to be pretty significant. We can sort by percent improved and actually see here are the ones that seem to help the most people. And we can even go into, say, antihistamines, which is the most commonly tried one. This seems to help a little bit for a lot of people. We can see the different types as well, the different brands that people are trying. The most popular one seems to be Zyrtec. We can filter by just reviews of Zyrtec and see that these numbers change dynamically, and then see the reports for Zyrtec specifically and see if it helped or didn't help. So yeah, this is kind of cool. We're using this as essentially solving the cold start problem for a much larger, broader treatment database, a treatment-focused community of people that are leaving reports on what helps and doesn't help themselves, what their own symptoms. And we're collecting a bunch of first-party reviews as well, like much more detailed reviews than what's available anywhere on the internet right now. So the hope is ultimately, you can come in, you can say, here are my symptoms, here's what I've already tried, and we can tell you these are the treatments that worked for people like you already. Maybe this is the next thing that you should try, and then maybe tell us how it went so that you can help other people in the community. You can check this out actually right now. It's at ai.eurekahealth.com. And that's it for me. Any questions?
I'm going to repeat the question. What is the plan to migrate users from the subreddit to Eureka?
Yeah, so far it's actually been really easy. The thing is, it's really hard to share your own experience on Reddit and on Twitter, as well as it's really hard to find other people's experiences. Like I would say, just go to Twitter right now and do a search for low dose naltrexone. It's almost impossible to figure out what people are actually experiencing with it. And even more, it's extremely difficult to figure out people like you, specifically if you have long COVID, what was the effect of LDN on long COVID? And I'm a 35-year-old man with these particular symptoms. What was it like for people like me? So we're solving that problem in our product. And that's been resonating quite strongly. People have been organically spreading the link to our treatment community, and we're slowly onboarding people. We have more than 800 people signed up to our wait list over the last month already. And yeah, we're onboarding about 100 to 200 people a week onto the treatment community right now.
Okay, there are a lot of questions which I would recommend you answer in chat, but I'm going to pick maybe 2 of them and ask them here. How do you verify the reviews?
How do we verify the reviews so that they're actually real?
Yeah, for example, Amazon has verified purchases. How do you check the treatments with medical professionals or verify them?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, these are all reports from Reddit and from Twitter. We're not reaching out and making sure that they actually took the thing. But people don't really have an incentive to lie about this stuff, right? Who makes money off of you if you buy low-dose naltrexone? It's a pharma company, and that pharma company would be incredibly illegal and probably not that profitable for them to astroturf the internet on Reddit and post about how great it is. So there's limited motivation to actually lie about this stuff. As well as it's worth considering too that the behavior that we're replacing is not a perfect book of reviews that people have. The behavior that we're replacing is people finding random reviews on Reddit and Twitter. We're collecting all of them and aggregating them, so it's strictly better than what people are doing right now.
Okay, last question before we move on. What is the business model?
The business model, yeah. So this sort of information is really valuable for 2 reasons. One is for helping pharma companies understand how their drugs are being used right now. That data can be, it's called real world evidence. That data can be used to apply for phase 4 trials. To low-dose naltrexone is a perfect example of this, where it would require a phase 4 trial to be approved for use in long COVID. And that's a very profitable thing for a pharma company to do. So we can use this data for that. The other thing that's even more interesting is, is there a way that we can actually discover new treatments based on what people are reporting? I think if we can figure out a way to do that, if we can figure out drug targets to go after because of the patient-reported outcomes people are reporting here, that would be really interesting. But yeah, that's still a ways down the line.
Well, thank you for your time and congratulations.
Thanks. Good to see y'all.
All right. Next up, we have William Skinner from Helios. Wait for it, guys. It is something in crypto. DeFi solar investing. I'm proud of the folks who actually stuck with it and didn't bail on crypto as a category. Welcome, William, to Demo Faire, and I will let you take it from here. And if people don't have questions after this, I'd be shocked.
Hi guys, so fantastic to be here. I love SPC. I've even got the swag to prove it. I've even got SPC Portco swag under my SPC swag. Super big fan. Yes, definitely valid. Crypto has been a pretty turbulent time. Sorry, no airdrop. It's been a pretty turbulent time, especially, SBV and all the stablecoin situation. I think what's top of mind for a lot of folks is portfolio diversification, which is fantastic because that is what our product does. Whoa. All right, let me share screen so I can, this demo will be slightly more informal. Just throwing it out there. How can I share my whole screen so that when I tab between, I think it should be fine. Cool. Can you guys see this? I guess I don't have any audio, so I'm gonna assume that's a yes. So I'm just gonna jump right in. This will be short and sweet. We want to make it simple because Helios makes investing in solar simple. So we are next-gen financial infrastructure to fund global solar. Our problem statement, essentially, there are thousands of high impact and profitable solar installations that are not being funded all around the world. These large multinational funds have these massive funds. They want to invest 10 million. The project is 100,000. That project's not going to get built. So these large projects are getting built. These thousands of smaller projects are kind of falling by the wayside, failed by international finance and traditional banking infrastructure. Helios swoops in and connects crypto liquidity to solar at scale. We believe that Web3 rails are still very powerful, despite Web3 UX somehow still sucking. I've been in the crypto space for 9 years, which maybe is the only reason I'm here. Just had so many winters. So anyway, yeah. So we connect crypto, high impact, uncorrelated assets, stable yield. We make the whole process real simple. Why does this matter? Investing in solar today, you're looking at 20-year lockup periods. You need to invest large quantities of money, $100,000. We can make that real easy, 3-month lockup period, $100 minimums, and you're actually going to beat the market. So we have built solar already across 4 continents. We're a year into this. Rather than starting with the crypto side, we started with the hard part, which is building solar on the other side of the world. We got that done. That was a year ago. Now we are here. We've generated 12.74% APY across our 7 installations. We've averted 250,000 tons of CO2. Solar isn't that pretty to look at. All the pictures look the same, so I just included 4 of them. I hope you get the picture. And then let me share the other one. So I'm going to run you through a quick demo. We are planning to launch our product. Well, we're actually planning to launch really, really soon. There's some uncertainty in the stablecoin market, specifically USDC. That's problematic for us because Helios only accepts USDC. So it's looking like our launch is going to get pushed a little bit. But here's our website, Evolution of Solar, powered by Web3. You can see our core belief is really that if you make impact profitable, you can make it cyclical. So you can continue to make impact. As you know, compound interest, one of my favorite quotes, compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. It's an actual quote by Albert Einstein, believe it or not. So a strong believer in that. How it works, again, we keep it really simple. I'll run you through the flow. And then impact beyond energy, we do some social good as well. And there's just kind of like this double and triple bottom line in solar that I really, really love. After my last startup, I knew I wanted to work in impact. So here I am. Huge shout out to SPC for enabling the fantastic space for me to pursue what I really wanted to do rather than the shorter term and more profitable ideas that I had. So glad to be here again. Let's dive into it. So you see this web page. Wow, solar is super cool. I really want to get into it, but isn't it really difficult to fund solar? No. So you click here, view pools. We have more pools than this, but like, wow, Mexico, India, UAE, global portfolio of solar projects you can get into. This one looks good. Let's go to India. So you've got the Indian rooftop solar. You've got all sorts of totally not filler text, accurate data about solar in India. And you've got your little panel here giving you the key metrics. So strong APY, long pool duration, but a short holdup period, small minimum investment, really big emissions averted. You can take a look at the projects in the pool. So this would be a pool of like 7 to 10 different projects in India. A nice little video. You can come chat on Discord, but like, wow, I'm super convinced I should fund solar. You click invest today. You click deposit USDC, and boom, that's how simple it is to fund solar on the other side of the world. That was like 3 clicks, I think. So yeah, that's it. So now you funded solar on the other side of the world. Congratulations, you're now saving the planet. But as with kind of money management, like people want more transparency, want to be able to see what it is that they're funding and kind of where that investment is going. I have like literally no idea what's happening to my 401k, probably irresponsible, but like it's such a pain in the ass to check it. We want to make that super simple. So here's a, so this, as you can see, graphic design is not my passion. So this has not made its way to the designer, but this is from yours truly. Hope you guys like it. This is William's portfolio. So really, you've got the key information here. You've got your financials and your impact. How much have I put in? How much have I made? And what's that look like on an annual growth rate? And then what's my impact? Like these dollars that I'm investing, say you put it in a BlackRock ESG, that has all sorts of problems, but really it's like, am I even creating any impact or not? Like, I don't really know. With this, you know exactly how much impact you're creating. This data is actually streamed on chain directly from the panel. So this is panel level solar generation data streamed in real time to an immutable ledger. So this is like the most accurate, most legit data you can get in pretty much any impact situation. Like this is like going to read the meter directly. You've got some investments. So we have, I don't know what that is. You got solar in Africa, you got solar in South America. We're looking to use AI to suggest new solar opportunities. No, we're not pivoting to AI, sorry. More opportunities, compound interest, we love it. cars, and investor reports. So yeah, I see 17 questions in the chat. I'm a little bit spooked to end the presentation. But that is us. In short, let's count the clicks. So I land on the website, taking a look at the pools. That's 1 click. India looks good, 2 clicks. This looks good, 3 clicks. Boom. So you've funded solar on the other side of the world in 4 clicks. So that's Helios. Thank you so much for having me here, and looking forward to answering some questions. So cool. Where do I start? How do you, thank you. How should I answer questions? Should I just grab some from the chat, or do some of the SPC MCs want to send some my way, or?
I will be sending some your way. So to get started,
Cool.
How do you find and qualify projects?
Yes, so this is a really big one. You need to work with people that you can trust. So we actually, one of the big benefits of Helios is we're not trying to vertically integrate. We're not actually managing the solar installations ourselves. We're working with developers around the world. That enables us to, 1, scale way more quickly, and 2, scale way more quickly and create a more diversified portfolio. That does mean we need to be pretty careful and pretty exacting with the folks that we work with. So we have been developing these relationships for more than a year now. And there's a great deal of due diligence. I really think that the crypto side of what we do is actually really simple. The more difficult part is the solar operations. So that's kind of where we started and where we spend almost all of our time.
I'm really sad because my main question man is leaving the room right now. Are you leaving?
Uh-oh.
Are you leaving? Okay, cool. All right, taking an IRL question next.
Why does this need to be crypto? Why can't you just say USD?
Yeah, why does this need to be crypto? Why can't you just take USD?
Fantastic question. The answer is it does not need to be crypto. We can do this completely with Web 2. I really do see our product as more of a Web 2.1, 2.2 product than a Web 3 product. We believe that the strength of crypto is in its ability to act as infrastructure rather than its ability to interface directly. I strongly believe, it is my goal at least, for V2 of Helios that will be launching next year, for someone to arrive at the site, go through the entire process, fund solar on the other side of the world, and check their portfolio, make sure it's there, all without ever knowing that it was crypto at all. We're really here for the rails. The big rails are transparency. I think in the impact space, you just have a ton of greenwashing. You just frankly have a ton of bullshit. We want to cut through all of that. We believe that blockchains and immutable ledgers offer really strong ways to do that. We actually have IoTs on our solar devices that stream the data directly on chain. The second is regulatory. So there are Web 2 versions of this. You can take a look at Trine, EcoLego, Sun Exchange if you have to. It exists. People have done it. The trouble is they're confined to one environment. So EcoLego, you're not able to access it as a US person, only EU citizens. So each of these companies, they kind of have to operate in these regulatory frameworks. Not that we just ignore regulation, but with crypto, we can basically enable anyone anywhere to access their product, including US retail investors. Super big development that we haven't told anyone yet.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we got to move on because we won't get to the rest of the demos. We have a lot of questions in Zoom, so I would recommend trying to answer those as well.
For sure. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, great. Come on over, Brian and Bryant from Legalese. So I will let them take it from here because they're here present live.
All righty. Just want to first confirm that we are audible.
Hello, you can hear us? Good.
Okay. Yeah. So we are really early. First of all, we're also missing the third collaborator that we've worked with over the last couple of weeks, Laura, who's in Japan right now. But I'm going to first sort of prompt our audience here with some questions. How many documents emerged from the Enron scandal in 1990s? Estimation. Give 70,000. Okay, we'll start there. And anyone want to go up? What about 100,000? Okay, any 200,000. We have 200,000. Anybody else? Anybody else? 3 million. So it's over 20 million individual documents from a single scandal, granted a complicated scandal. And this is over the course of the entire investigation. So this is a lot of time. So let's take another more recent example, FTX, up to January. So and you know, maybe they benefit from not being a very well documented company. So, but just an estimation, just so far in the first couple months of that investigation. 1 million. So it's actually about 500,000 so far as of January. So we're dealing with massive scales of information that are getting revealed through a process called discovery. So discovery is a core part of litigation. Whenever there's lawsuits that are large, that involve large entities with complicated structures, discovery is the process by which one party says, we think all of this stuff is relevant from your history, and all of these other experts, their stuff is also relevant. And we create a big pile of potential evidence that both parties search through. And that process is extremely time intensive. And it is also very complicated because it's like looking for multiple needles in multiple hay piles. So we've been really interested in investigating, navigating large troves of documents. We're at a very early stage of that process. We've also been interested, like a lot of people these days, in how LLMs might help understanding of corpuses of documents. And so we've brought that together into a really simple demo to kind of explore what we're researching so far. And I first want to, one more prompt. What is the biggest problem working with LLMs? Let's say when we want them to be factual. Hallucination, yeah. So like we all know this, I think this is a fairly widely regarded, widely known topic at this point, is that hallucination is a really major constraint, and that the LLMs and diffusion models, generally generative models, are amazing when you don't have strict boundaries around what can appear. So for instance, if you're in a creative space, if you're in a marketing email space, if you're in any of these spaces that have a very relatively wide margin for error, then it can be amazing. That is not true for law. Like law is the language equivalent of code. And if there are areas where things are not really tightly wound and tightly held, then everything can collapse. So we've been trying to engage with this space from a pretty conservative and humble point to see whether or not we can just aid people in understanding and create kind of a platform for to help people engage and understand with law. So with our demo today, we're going to be showing specifically the application to tax documents, which is what we have ready for you today.
Yeah, so we put a simple front end together, short and sweet, to try to explain what's going on here. And we're going to ask a kind of vague question about taxes to see what kind of answers we can get here. And the interesting part should be when we ask this question, it's going to take a little while to think and munge. But oops, we cursed the live demo. We didn't do it. Well, then we'll give it another shot. We want to, this process isn't just like going to OpenAI, asking and coming back. It's also going through, all right, so today's bad, but we're going to go through when we asked this question a little while ago. And basically what we want to do is we indexed a bunch of documents that we then are ranking and inserting into the prompt. And then we're asking the LLM to not only give us an answer, but explain to us why it knows that answer and cite its sources. And so not only do we have this question and we get an answer that basically says, yeah, anytime you get property, if it's over a certain amount of money, you pay taxes on it. We can also find the part of the document. And then if we really want to go and examine, the entirety of that thing and help understand what our case is. And again, this does not to necessarily give a layperson random tax advice at any moment. I think we're all aware that that's a hard problem. We're going to get there, but we may not be there today. But really to help us understand how good we are at gathering structured data from these documents, being able to say rational things about them and being able to ask human language questions about them and get a reasonable response.
Anyone got a fun tax question?
Yeah, we can just try something. Why not?
We'll see if our backend servers work a little better at this point. All right.
Funded my IRA twice in the past year. How do I fix this?
Okay, you funded your IRA twice in the last year. How do I fix this? Or what should I do? Yeah, we'll see. All right. When we tried to demo this, Tian Tian, I think you, oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so now we got an answer. The question now is it useful? You should tell the sponsor which year the contribution is for. If you don't tell the sponsor which year it is for, the sponsor can assume and report to the IRS that the contribution is for the current year, the year the sponsor received it. And that gives us a citation. You can change or revoke your election only if specifically allowed by law and the plan. If you have already contributed more than the annual limit, you may be able to take advantage of the increased limit, which allows you to contribute up to twice the annual limit or the basic annual limit plus the amount of the basic limit not used in prior years. So maybe that's useful. Maybe that gives you an avenue to go. But one other sort of motivating experience for me in this was asking somebody at H&R Block relatively complicated questions about how to recognize equity from my previous employer, and getting really different answers every time I asked, and realizing that their process was a lot like this, actually. They would post a question to their internal sort of Q&A board, and then somebody would read over some portion of the documents that they found and come up with an answer. And the answer was repeatedly incorrect. And I would find documents that basically supported my case. So law is one of those areas which is not necessarily subjective, but where the purviews of where a document ends up being relevant or irrelevant can be a matter of how much energy somebody has put into finding it. And I think that we are poised to help an individual who's in that research process do that more effortlessly, to be able to do more with less. That's all we got.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, guys.
Any questions? Oh,
I have one from the chat, and you have to repeat the question.
sure.
Even if you embed all legal documents and a user asks a question that isn't contained within the embedded documents, how can you prevent the LLM from making up a response?
So that's fairly easy, actually. So the question was, how do we prevent an LLM from making up a response when there are no embedded documents that are relevant to a given question? And the answer is, if you don't get anything returned on your search, you just return, I don't know. Pretty simple.
Right, you don't ask the LM.
You don't ask the LM. Yeah. I mean, it will bullshit. You can also ask LLMs to not bullshit, which is like a strategy that has like some degree of success. Like if you ask them to not cite or not make up answers and things like that, they sometimes will obey that command. But oftentimes you'll see little sneaky citations of documents that don't exist. So the easiest ways is to check what you're injecting and make sure that what you're injecting actually makes any sense.
Any IRL questions?
Sure.
How do you ensure that these LLMs are only citing documents that we index documents that are into it and not some outdated documents that are the same?
How do we make sure that it's only citing documents that we fed into it versus some outdated document that it may have been fed into it? So this is a little bit of a trick. It's a little, and I think we should all recognize that the failure cases for these language models are kind of unbounded, right? It's not a place where not having human in the loop is safe. You're going to always need human in the loop and probably expert in the loop in a given domain like tax. But the way you do that is you can do a lot of prompt engineering to basically prevent it from converging on some of its default behavior. And you can also do checking. So if you wanted to have for sort of an editor that's sitting over the context, examining what you gave it as labeled as, here's the documents you can cite, and then you could see whether or not in the response and those were actually cited.
Okay.
That's it for us. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, thank you guys.
Hi, I'm Curly.
And
this
I'm
is-
Omar.
Yeah, we were part of FF3 and we've been working on games for the past year. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Okay, and let me share my screen. So we've been working on Meshi.fun, which is an expressive AI companion. So here she is. I'm gonna go say hi to her.
Hi there. How can I help you today?
And then I can introduce myself. My name is Curly.
If it takes long, you can explain.
Yeah, so if it takes a little while to respond,
Nice
it's
to meet you,
actually
Curly. It's great
rate
to
limited
have
by our voice. Yeah. Cool. And then we can make her laugh and smile. So
that tickles.
So her expressions and her animations are driven by the ML. So it's like based on what she's saying back to you. And we can also make her sad. So it's like, you're unhelpful.
I'm sorry you feel that way. Is there anything else I can do to help?
Yes, and then she also has a memory, so I can refer to my name. So create a haiku with my name.
Curly's heart soars high above the clouds, free, a gentle breeze blows.
Yeah, so of course your AI companion might not be an anime girl. We can also switch it to anything you want. For example, your favorite character or a pet. So we can swap it out for a rabbit. Oh, smart. Oops. And then we can also tell it that it's cute. You're cute.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet of you to say.
Yeah. So transitioning a little bit. So the background here we have is AI generated, and you can also change it to whatever you want. And it would be really cool to have the companions be aware of their environments and themselves so they can act accordingly based on their context. So for example, if we had it be in a festival, we can have it know that it should start dancing. And GPT-4 with multimodal might just be the thing that we need to unlock this. And we're just getting started. We started working on this maybe a week ago, building on top of things we've previously built before. So we're super excited about bringing this to bringing companions to everyone in any digital space. And if you would like to try this out, you can go to meshi.fun and sign up. Yeah, and then Omar and I will also be in the SPC SF space after this, so we can hang out IRL too.
And I think there were some questions in the Zoom.
I don't think there are questions.
Yeah, there was one. Jonathan. So Jonathan asked, what's the plan for reducing response time? So right now, the text-to-speech, we use a service called 11 Labs. We can get the response time down really fast if we use less high quality providers like AWS or Azure. But 11 Labs just has kind of a really variable latency. We also do things like lip syncing, which isn't quite right yet. Also dependent on the provider. So we're working on getting the voices to really match up. But that's the plan right now. Basically try to get really high quality fast voice is kind of provider dependent. Yeah.
Any questions from the IRL audience?
Guy from Archer? Oh, I haven't heard of the guy from Archer. Do you know?
Hey, Curly, hold on a second. We have an IRL question.
How far back can character like if you start off with someone 6 months ago, will they remember the context of that relationship?
Have you built memory for characters? How far back can they remember? Like, can they remember a conversation I've had with them 6 months ago?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. So right now we do have the concept of sessions, although it's not exposed on the front end. So the context size is going to be dependent on the LLM that we plug in on our backend. And right now the context size is determined by the GPT-3
Da Vinci
model. I guess that might not be 3, it might be 3.5, but that's the limitation. So you could come back a year later or 6 months later. It kind of depends on how long the conversation is. The LLMs are being fed with LangChain, So that has a separate concept of memory where basically we could build in key facts, and other services like Replica sort of have core memories that you can ingrain if you want your character to explicitly remember specific things, even beyond the context window. We haven't built a ton of that out yet. Right now, we have a pretty naive like LangChain setup, but we do want to build sort of like the key or core memory feature next. Yeah.
Okay. So next up, just 2 more demos, guys. So hang on to your seats. Next up, we have Michael from Plato. Michael, if you are around, can you introduce yourself and let me know if you can screen share?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right, great. Yeah, I'll screen share here in a second. That was a really cool demo, Refusion, using the visual to generate audio is really clever. My demo isn't nearly as sexy, so prepare for the world of B2B software. So my name is Michael. I'm the founder of Plato. Plato is Airtable for your SQL database. So it's an out-of-the-box admin console for all kinds of business operations on your back office data. So we have operators building custom task trackers on their production data. We have sales agents using Plato to extend free trials. We have machine learning engineers using Plato to manually tune up their training data set. This is a page from our launch blog because we launched to the public last week. We had a great launch on Hacker News where we peaked at, I think, like number 4 or 5 on Hacker News. So there was a great discussion there if you'd like to follow along. But yeah, I'd love to demo our product. This is pretty fun because I just demoed a Figma prototype last year, and we've got a well-functioning production product now. It's free to try for anyone to check out. This is Plato on Plato. So it's our own production workspace of Plato connected to our production database. So this is, this is our own production database. We also have Plato here connected to a few sample databases, including this company's database, which is a Postgres database running in Google Cloud. So I've connected it to Plato by just poking a hole in our firewall, whitelisting our IP address. But we are soon deploying Plato on-prem. That's what we're launching next week, which is very exciting because this is by far our most requested feature, is to run Plato within the firewall. So if I just expand this database here, we can see all of the tables for this database, including this company's table. In this demo, I work at a fintech company, and this table has all of my client data. And I'd like to construct a view that my accountants can use to support some of their workflows. So this table has a one-to-many relationship with my employees table. So we can just follow foreign keys to view the company for a given employee. We also auto-generate backlinks so we can see all of the employees for a given company. Now, I need to construct a view that my accountants are going to understand. So to do that, I can use these visual queries up at the top. If you are familiar with Airtable, you're familiar with our mechanism for doing visual queries as well. You can do sorts, filters, projections. You can even join tables together by expanding foreign keys, which is a really convenient way to do joins, which are normally this kind of hairy thing that's requires some complex SQL. But here I can just expand a foreign key to bring in all of the data from my user table. So I brought in the email and the name, which is pretty useful. I also brought in this numeric enum field, which my accountants are not going to understand. So let me just hide that field. And that is a view that my accountants can start to use. So I'd like to share this view. And I can do this directly, but I don't want to have to expose all the details of how it was constructed. So instead, I'm going to save it as a virtual table called accountants. And what a virtual table does is just abstracts all the details of how a table was created and gives me a table I can then share with my accountants. So they're free to further query this. Now, as an accountant, I want to message all of my clients that have been recently incorporated to make sure that we have up-to-date data. So I'm going to filter down these guys by the incorporation date. I just want to view my clients that have been incorporated since the last tax filing date, April 15th. And then I can export this view as a CSV. So that gives me all the emails. I can throw those into Gmail or a messaging automation tool. But when they tell me new up-to-date data, I need to update that in my system. So by default, every database in Plato is locked. I've already unlocked this database. So if I get, say, a new address, I can just update that inline. This client actually gave me some info that suggests they need a new tax form that we aren't tracking in our table yet. I don't want to have to wait for the engineers to add this column to the table. So instead, I'm going to use a virtual column in Plato. This is a really convenient feature for tracking new data that isn't yet modeled in our database. So I just added a notes column here, and I can leave myself a note that this column or this client needs a in 572 form. All right, so that's Plato in a nutshell. It's a simple admin console for company operations. Just before I wrap up, I'll share a diagram from our blog post. This shows how Plato compares to other internal tool builders. So there are other tool builders out there like Retool or AppSheet that engineers can use to build new tools on top of internal systems. But these can really only be used by engineers. They're marketed exclusively to engineers. And we just think that's kind of silly because the whole point of low code is that anybody should be able to build their own software. And that's what Plato is about. So we sit on top of the same internal systems, but the role of engineers is just to create a safe foundation that operators can build upon in a safe sandbox using no-code techniques. So this is our vision, and this is where we're headed. Plato is free for anybody to use today, so we'd love for you to try it out and give us your feedback.
Michael, how long did it take to build the MVP? I'm smiling because I know, but I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah, it took quite a while. These low-code platforms are very versatile. It turns out if you build an app for a couple simple workflows and really put it on Rails, you can get MVPs out in a few weeks. But for these creation tools, it takes a long time. And I've been working on this for 3 years. The whole team, we have a 6-person team now, and our team's only been together for a few months. So we're really starting to features are really starting to be delivered a lot faster. But I'd say the MVP in the form of like a Figma prototype was done in like 3 weeks.
One more question, Michael, from the live audience.
Yeah. So how does the low-code platform right now takes care of validations if someone is entering the wrong input for an already existing field? And do the platform handle that right now?
How does the platform handle validations if someone is entering data for a wrong field, per se, or a wrong format?
Wrong format, yeah. So currently we just delegate to your database. So it would be up to you to define constraints at the database level. We do want to add user-defined constraints. So you could add, length limits to string fields and things like that. But that's a roadmap feature.
Great. I think we need to move on. We are actually over, but thank you, Michael, so much for that
Thank
demo.
you.
Okay, next up we have Alvaro from Orb, and they are building a modern pricing platform to build for seats, consumptions, and anything in between. Guys, are you around?
Yes, ready to kick it off. Thanks, everyone. My name is Alvaro. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Orb, and I'm very excited to be here today. We were part of FF1, so it is great to be back today. Like Richie just mentioned, Orb is a modern pricing platform that helps companies with hybrid, more product usage focused pricing models. And in today's demo sessions, we saw some really exciting demos for AI products, many of which could have an underlying monetization model and cost structure that is token-based. So as we're going to talk about it today, I think these kinds of usage-based pricing models could be highly relevant to some of you all. So what I'd like to do today is together build a billing model for an API product in Orb to demonstrate how with our approach, you can go from real-time events reflecting usage that's happening in your product all the way up to accurate invoices. So this is Orb. This is the internal billing admin dashboard that our customers see. And in Orb, everything starts with events. And an event is really a record that represents something that's happening in your product. An event could model something like an API call, a file upload, or a measurement of compute. And Orb provides you a very scalable and fast way for you to ingest that data into our platform. And then what I'm going to show you today is how we can go from this data set to modeling your pricing model in Orb. So everything starts with this idea of billable metrics, which is how we connect that event data set to value metrics that you can use with pricing. And to show you what that looks like, we've built this very flexible and dynamic interface that empowers a team on the revenue, finance, or product side to interact with that data set that I just showed you. So going back to our API-based pricing model, let's imagine we want to price based on API requests. So we're able to kind of interactively explore what that data set looks like, perhaps set some conditions. Let's say I only want to price for API calls whose endpoint is auth. Again, being able to kind of preview and make sure that the value metric that I'm constructing for my business is correct. We think this is pretty cool. It helps a lot of our customers get up and running. But the reality is that when it comes to billing, really the devil's in the details, and it's the edge cases and exceptions that make things really, really hard. So that's why we've built all of this on top of a custom SQL platform. So if ever your business or your product has a more sophisticated way of measuring usage or has kind of a more bespoke way to calculate what billable usage is, you can lean into that full flexibility of SQL to achieve it. Once we're able to define what are the key value metrics that make sense for our pricing, Orb provides a very flexible plan builder for you to model any kind of pay-as-you-go, commit-based, pre-purchase, prepaid credits model very easily out of the box. So I'm able to come in here, for example, add something like a platform fee that could be assessed annually for $25,000. And then with the usage-based fees is where I can take any of the metrics that we just defined in the previous step and connect it to pricing. So these could be some simple things like unit-based pricing, or it could be tiered pricing if I'm doing some sort of volume discounts, all the way up to building more complex dimensional pricing models. Let's say if we want to charge a different rate per API endpoint, be able to very easily and ergonomically set this up with all the kind of discount and pricing levers that you'd want to make sure that you offer customers when it comes to usage-based pricing. To really put this all together, the big so what of working with Orb for billing is we get to take this billing process that normally is like a once a month manual invoicing run, and we get to make it real time. So at any point in the month, anybody can come in here, get a preview of a customer's upcoming invoice, have detailed visibility into any of the value metrics that you track as a business, all the way to presenting and reflecting accurate invoices to your customers. As you all might know, whenever you're a customer of or you're a vendor of a product that is consumption-based, what's really important is to build trust in your customers that you're billing them accurately and they're really only paying for what they use. So we've reimagined the invoicing experience from scratch, showing customers not just how much they owe, but connecting it to the why. That is providing that underlying visualization of product usage directly into their customer experience. So that's a little bit of a whirlwind tour of Orb here. Again, what I've showed you today is how to connect a raw real-time event stream of product usage in your application all the way to this monthly invoicing process. So if you'd like to learn more, we'd love for you to poke around our interactive sandbox in our website. That's withorb.com. And also excited to chat and help consult with some of the pricing ideas that you all might have there up your sleeve. Looking forward to your questions.
The question was, what are some of the unmet needs of existing billing platforms and pricing models? Was it real-time runtime usage? What were like some of the gaps there?
That's a great question. So you can think of Orb as a sort of a new approach kind of solution that marries this idea of data infrastructure with billing infrastructure. So whenever you look at an existing solution like Stripe Billing or ChargeBee, those kinds of products require you to have your engineering team build the data infrastructure to tell the billing product, how should I price based on usage in my product, and ultimately require you to have to build a whole bunch of middleware systems to be able to do some pretty common pricing tactics that you find with usage-based pricing, such as prepaid credits. With Orb, like the difference in approach here is that we start with the data. So instead of forcing your engineering team to couple how your product is used to how it's priced, we just say, send us the event stream of what product usage is happening, and interactively in Orb will help you construct your billing model. And I think the real power and long-term advantage of that approach is akin to products like Segment that get to sort of lower the engineering floor and get to empower some other revenue teams with the ability to evolve the monetization.
Is this available self-serve?
Almost. So about a week ago, we just launched our interactive website demo, which is a fully ungated kind of interactive real exploration of our product. The CTA in that demo is still a conversation with our team to learn a little bit about your use case, but taking some good steps towards full self-serve later this year.
Awesome. One last question, and then we're going to break, guys. Yeah, go for it. It seems that Orb would be useful across many different verticals. So we're curious about who your early adopters are and from which verticals.
That's a great question. So I would say that our bread and butter use cases for the past couple of years have been companies in the cloud infrastructure, fintech, and data and developer platform markets and verticals. I would say that those companies are some of the early adopters of the most sophisticated and flexible billing models out there in market, with kind of a recent and exciting common thread with companies adding AI capabilities to their products, wanting to dip more and more into these capabilities. I think one thing that's very exciting for us as a company is that really when you think about it, every company today is looking to drive revenue efficiency, to find ways that they can grow revenue and usage from their existing customer base and product base. And there's really no better way than finding like what is the right first principles based tactic and way that you can incentivize more consumption in your product by starting to weave in some of those elements of product usage and combine them with some existing platform or seat-based monetization model.
All right, thank you for that, Alvaro. And with that, I'm going to declare our first quarter demo fair closed.